If you look at a population map of Arizona or even a nighttime satellite image of the state, one thing jumps out immediately. In the south, around Phoenix and Tucson, the landscape erupts into a massive blaze of light. Millions of people fill the desert valleys, creating a glowing web of suburbs, highways, malls, and endless development that stretches for miles in every direction. It looks alive, growing, and unstoppable. But the moment you look toward northern Arizona, that glow collapses. The lights thin out, then disappear into enormous stretches of darkness. What remains is a world of high plateaus, forests, canyons, and remote towns separated by vast distances. Counties larger than entire states contain only small clusters of people, and much of the land is untouched, protected, or part of sovereign tribal nations. It feels like an entirely different state. So why did almost everyone who moved to Arizona crowd into the scorching southern deserts while leaving the cooler and more scenic north so lightly populated? The answer has almost nothing to do with politics or personal preference. Arizona's population divide was shaped by something far more powerful, something that determined the fate of the state long before cities ever existed. If you enjoy geography and deep dive explanations like this, feel free to subscribe. How Phoenix and Tucson became Arizona's population centers. Phoenix and Tucson dominate Arizona's population for several reasons, beginning with geography. Both cities sit in broad desert basins with flat land that makes construction fast and inexpensive. Early railroads connected these valleys to national markets, and military installations, universities, and highways later reinforced their importance. Phoenix especially grew because it had room to expand in every direction. The valley surrounding it became a perfect canvas for suburban development, neighborhoods, commerce, and industry. Water projects transformed the region from a small desert town into one of the major metropolitan areas in the American Southwest. Tucson experienced similar growth, supported by its university, military presence, and strong ties to Mexico and southern trade routes. Together, Phoenix and Tucson became the engines that pulled most of Arizona's population southward. Once major employers clustered in these cities, the pattern accelerated. People moved there for jobs, schools, hospitals, and modern conveniences. Meanwhile, northern communities never developed the same scale of urban hubs or infrastructure. As Phoenix and Tucson expanded decade after decade, their combined momentum made southern Arizona the clear home for most residents. Why northern Arizona looks huge but feels empty. Northern Arizona appears enormous on a map, with counties so large they rival entire states in size. Coconino County is larger than many eastern states, yet it contains only a fraction of the population. Vast stretches of land are occupied by forests, plateaus, canyons, and reservations rather than towns and suburbs. The landscape is rugged, elevated, and remote, with many communities separated by long distances across open terrain. These expanses create the illusion of space available for settlement, but the reality is more complicated. Much of northern Arizona consists of protected land, tribal land, or natural landscapes that cannot support large-scale development. In addition, the region is built around a scattered pattern of small towns rather than a single dominant city. Without a large metropolitan center to anchor growth, population density remains low even within the few cities that do exist. Residents enjoy stunning scenery and quieter living, but the region simply does not support the kind of dense population seen in the south. Northern Arizona looks huge, but it remains lightly inhabited because much of that space was never suited for large numbers of people to settle permanently. The desert cities that should not exist but do. Phoenix and Tucson are often described as cities that should not exist naturally. They are located in extremely hot and dry desert valleys where ancient settlements could only support small populations. What changed was modern engineering. When massive water import systems and reservoirs were built in the 20th century, these desert basins suddenly had access to enough water to support millions of residents. Canals delivered water from distant rivers, pumping stations lifted water across vast distances, and irrigation systems allowed entire suburban regions to flourish. Air conditioning made the intense summer heat manageable, transforming what was once a challenging environment into a comfortable place for year-round living. Northern Arizona did not receive these same large-scale interventions. Smaller towns lacked the infrastructure needed to support enormous populations. Water resources remained limited, and the terrain was far more difficult for wide suburban expansion. Phoenix and Tucson essentially bypassed natural limits through engineering and investment. Northern Arizona remained constrained by its environment, while southern cities grew into major population centers that seemed to defy the desert around them. How water canals made southern Arizona explode. With people. One of the biggest reasons for the South's explosive growth is the immense system of canals that deliver water from the Colorado River deep into Arizona. The largest of these, the Central Arizona Project, stretches hundreds of miles and lifts water across mountains and desert to reach Phoenix and surrounding suburbs. This supply allowed millions of people to live in a place that otherwise would have been far too dry to support large-scale settlement. With reliable water, Phoenix could build massive suburbs, parks, golf courses, and industrial zones. Agriculture thrived, then slowly transitioned into urban development as land grew more valuable for housing. Tucson benefited from both local groundwater and southern canal support, giving it a stable water foundation as well. Northern Arizona never had access to a comparable engineered water system. Many northern towns depend on snowpacks, small reservoirs, or local aquifers, which limit how much they can grow. Water availability directly shaped Arizona's population. The South received a vast engineered supply that supported millions, while the North remained tied to local water sources and therefore grew much more slowly. The elevation line that silently divides Arizona. Arizona is divided by an invisible boundary created by elevation. Most of northern Arizona sits thousands of feet higher than the southern desert valleys. This difference creates cooler temperatures, strong winter storms, and heavy snowfall in towns such as Flagstaff, Williams, and Show Low. While these conditions are ideal for tourism and summer vacations, they are less suited for year-round suburban sprawl. Higher elevation means shorter growing seasons, more expensive infrastructure, and harsher winter driving conditions. In contrast, Phoenix and Tucson enjoy warm weather throughout most of the year, making them ideal for retirees and seasonal visitors escaping colder states. The elevation divide shaped Arizona's population more than people realize. Southern Arizona became a sunny refuge for millions, while the north became a region of forests and mountain towns where development remained limited by climate. The climate difference also affected agriculture, transportation, and construction, ensuring that mass population growth would happen in the low deserts rather than the high plateaus. Why northern Arizona is full of parks instead of cities. A significant portion of northern Arizona is protected land that cannot be developed. The region contains vast areas of national forest, national monuments, and one of the most famous natural wonders in the world, the Grand Canyon. These parks attract millions of visitors, but they also restrict urban growth across huge portions of the map. Northern Arizona also includes large areas of Native American reservations, including the Navajo Nation and Hopi lands. Tribal lands have unique governance and development rules, and they do not follow the same patterns as suburban cities. These areas contain communities, schools, and cultural centers, but they do not grow into dense urban regions. When you combine national parks, tribal reservations, and other protected lands, nearly the entire northern portion of the state becomes unavailable for large-scale city building. Southern Arizona, by contrast, had wide open basins where cities could expand freely. Northern Arizona is beautiful and culturally significant, but much of it is intentionally preserved, ensuring that major metropolitan growth would not happen there. Phoenix has more people than most of northern Arizona combined. Phoenix is one of the fastest growing and largest metropolitan regions in the United States. Its population exceeds several million people, a number so large that it surpasses the combined populations of many northern counties. This concentration of people creates economic momentum. Businesses open where customers live, hospitals expand where populations are dense, and universities grow where students gather. Phoenix's enormous size means that job opportunities, education, medical services, and entertainment options are all centered in the South. People gravitate toward regions with these advantages, reinforcing the population imbalance. Northern Arizona, with its smaller towns and lower density, cannot offer the same level of urban infrastructure or employment opportunities. As a result, Phoenix continues to attract a disproportionate share of the state's residents. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. The more Phoenix grows, the more resources it attracts, and the more people choose to move there. Northern Arizona simply cannot compete with a city that has the population power of an entire region combined. The interstates that supercharge the South and skip the North. Transportation networks shaped Arizona's modern population just as much as climate and water. The major interstate corridors run across the southern part of the state. Interstate 10 links Phoenix and Tucson directly to California and Texas, making it a major artery for trade and commerce and long-distance travel. Interstate 8 connects Phoenix to San Diego, further integrating the city into the economy of the Southwest. These highways allowed goods, workers, and businesses to flow into southern Arizona with ease. Northern Arizona does have an interstate that runs east to west, but the story is different. Interstate 40 crosses long stretches of rural land and connects smaller towns with one another, but it does not link major economic hubs with the same intensity as the southern highways. The result is that most large-scale development followed the southern freeway system rather than the northern plateau. When transportation routes favored the south, so did population growth. Northern Arizona remained quiet, not because it lacked beauty, but because it lacked the transportation infrastructure required for massive economic expansion. How military bases and winter visitors strengthened the South. Southern Arizona is home to major military bases that bring steady jobs, investment, and infrastructure. Bases such as Davis-Monthan in Tucson and facilities around Phoenix support thousands of personnel and create long-term economic stability. These bases attract contractors, defense companies, and workers who settle nearby, boosting local populations. In addition to the military presence, southern Arizona attracts enormous numbers of winter visitors seeking relief from colder climates. These seasonal residents, often called snowbirds, spend months living in Arizona and support local businesses, hospitals, and housing markets. Their presence drives demand for restaurants, medical centers, entertainment venues, and retail stores, all of which stimulate growth in Phoenix, Tucson, and Yuma. Northern Arizona also receives tourists, but they typically visit for short periods rather than staying for entire seasons. Winter visitors play a smaller role in northern communities, which keeps economic activity more limited. Combined with military bases, seasonal residents give southern Arizona a strong and reliable economic foundation that northern regions cannot match. Flagstaff is one of northern Arizona's most important cities, but it never grew into a massive metropolitan area. Its location is both an advantage and a limitation. The city sits thousands of feet above sea level, surrounded by national forest and mountains. These natural features make it a scenic and desirable place to live, but they also restrict large-scale expansion. The terrain is rugged, the climate is cold in winter, and the available flat land for development is limited. Phoenix, on the other hand, sits in a broad desert valley with room to expand in every direction. There are few natural barriers to development, which allowed the city to spread outward for miles. As water infrastructure improved, Phoenix filled its valley with subdivisions, highways, and commercial centers. Flagstaff remained a smaller university and tourism town, shaped by elevation, wilderness, and strict land protections. It grew, but it could never match the scale and momentum of Phoenix. Reservations and remote towns shape the northern map. Northern Arizona contains some of the largest Native American reservations in the United States. The Navajo Nation alone spans a vast portion of the region, and other tribal lands are dispersed across the north as well. These lands have their own governments, communities, and cultural systems, and they do not follow the suburban expansion pattern seen in southern Arizona. Settlements are widely spaced, often connected by long rural roads rather than dense networks of city streets. The landscape reflects cultural priorities rather than large-scale urban development. In addition to reservation land, northern Arizona is filled with remote plateau towns that grew around specific local resources or transportation routes. These communities remain small because they lack the economic drivers required to transform into larger cities. The combination of large reservations and scattered rural towns shapes northern Arizona into a region defined by cultural depth and open space rather than population density. Tourism brings money to the north, but not many residents. Northern Arizona is one of the most visited regions in the United States. The Grand Canyon alone attracts millions of people every year, and destinations such as Sedona, Lake Powell, and Monument Valley draw visitors from around the world. Tourism provides important revenue, but it does not translate into large permanent populations. Many jobs in the tourism industry are seasonal and cannot support year-round residency. Workers often live in nearby small towns or commute long distances from more affordable areas. Housing markets in popular destinations may also favor vacation rentals, second homes, and hotels rather than affordable long-term housing. This keeps the year-round population relatively low, even as visitor numbers skyrocket. Northern Arizona thrives on tourism, but it cannot support the kind of urban development that would significantly increase population density. Why offices and technology concentrate in the South? Corporate headquarters, financial firms, and technology companies overwhelmingly choose Phoenix and its surrounding suburbs. These industries depend on large labor pools, modern transportation networks, and accessible airports. Phoenix offers all of these advantages, along with lower costs compared to coastal cities. Tucson also hosts research institutions and defense companies that benefit from its university and military presence. Northern Arizona lacks the infrastructure and labor force needed to attract large corporate clusters. Towns there are smaller, distances between communities are greater, and airports have fewer connections. Businesses that require frequent travel or close collaboration naturally locate in the South. When companies cluster in a particular region, workers follow, reinforcing Southern Arizona's economic dominance. Southern Arizona's airports connect it to the world. Phoenix Sky Harbor is one of the busiest airports in the United States, offering direct flights to countless destinations across the country and international routes to major global cities. Tucson International provides additional connectivity for residents of Southern Arizona. These airports make travel easy for companies, workers, tourists, and new residents. The accessibility of air travel plays a major role in economic development, encouraging businesses to establish headquarters and offices in Phoenix and Tucson. Northern Arizona airports, by contrast, are smaller and more regional. They offer limited destinations and cannot support the same level of international movement. This restricts the ability of northern towns to attract global companies or large numbers of new residents. Modern population centers grow where transportation networks are strongest, and in Arizona, that strength is overwhelmingly concentrated in the South. When extreme heat becomes a selling point. It may seem surprising, but the extreme heat of Southern Arizona is actually a major attraction for many people. Phoenix and Tucson experience blazing summers, yet their mild winters make them ideal destinations for retirees and seasonal residents. People from colder regions of the United States often choose to live in Arizona specifically because of the warm climate. Southern Arizona markets itself as a winter haven with sunshine, golf courses, and outdoor living. Northern Arizona is cooler and experiences significant snowfall in many areas. While this appeals to tourists and outdoor enthusiasts, it does not create the same appeal for retirees seeking a warm winter climate. As a result, Southern Arizona draws far more new residents because of its climate. The harsh summer heat does not deter growth because the region offers comfortable winters that attract people year after year. Large-scale infrastructure projects such as freeways, shopping centers, sports stadiums, and university campuses require dense populations to be sustainable. Southern Arizona provides the necessary population base for these developments, especially Phoenix and Tucson. Phoenix has multiple major freeways, extensive retail corridors, and stadiums for professional sports teams. Tucson hosts major commercial zones and university facilities. In contrast, Northern Arizona's smaller populations cannot support these large projects. The demand for major malls, stadiums, or sprawling university districts simply is not high enough. Infrastructure follows people, and people follow infrastructure. As more amenities are built in the South, more residents are attracted there, reinforcing the cycle of growth. Northern Arizona remains focused on smaller-scale services and local institutions because its population is spread across a wide and sparsely inhabited territory, where suburbs end and open land begins. If you drive north from Phoenix, you experience one of the clearest examples of Arizona's population divide. Suburbs stretch outward for miles until they suddenly stop. Beyond the last subdivision, there is nothing but open desert, forests, or plateau. This sharp boundary highlights how quickly the landscape transitions from one of the largest metropolitan areas in the United States to vast areas of empty land. Northern Arizona does not have the continuous suburban spread found in the South. Towns are separated by long distances, and the region lacks the dense networks of roads and neighborhoods that characterize Phoenix and Tucson. This visual and physical break in development makes the northern half of the state appear vast and empty compared to the crowded desert valleys of the South. Growth patterns follow the Sunbelt trend. Arizona's growth patterns match those of the broader Sunbelt region in the United States. People have been moving to warm, sunny states with lower taxes, affordable housing, and abundant job opportunities. Phoenix and Tucson benefited enormously from this trend. They offered large housing developments, new industries, and expanding suburban communities. Northern Arizona did not share equally in this Sunbelt boom. Its smaller towns, harsher winters, and limited infrastructure made it less competitive for attracting large numbers of new residents. The Sunbelt trend reinforced the long-standing divide between North and South. As Phoenix and Tucson expanded rapidly, many northern counties grew slowly or even lost population despite their natural beauty. Climate, economy, and affordability guided people toward the South, solidifying the pattern we see today. A state split between canyons and suburbs. Arizona is a state defined by contrast. The southern half is a world of suburbs, freeways, shopping centers, universities, and expanding job markets. It is the economic and population center of the state, driven by warm winters, transportation networks, and engineered water supply. The northern half is a world of pine forests, red rock canyons, high plateaus, and vast stretches of protected land. It is a region of natural beauty and cultural depth rather than dense population. Geography shaped this divide long before modern cities appeared. History reinforced it, and economic forces solidified it. Arizona grew into two very different regions, one built for millions of people, the other preserved by nature, elevation, and tradition. The result is a state where suburban lights dominate the South, while breathtaking open spaces define the North.